prayer. चेतोदर्पणमार्जनं भवमहा दावाग्निर्वापणम् श्रेयकैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणम् विद्यावधू जीवनम् आनन्दाम्बुधिवर्धनं प्रदीपतम् पूर्णामृतास्वादनम् सर्वात्मस्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्ण संकीर्तनम् नामकारी बहुधा निज सर्वशक्तिस् तत्रार्पिता नियमिता स्मरणेन काला एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैवमीदृशमिह जनिनानुरागा गृणातपि सुनीचेना तरोरपि सहिष्णुना अमानीनामानदेना कीर्तनीया सदा हरि न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतात् भक्तिराहितुकी त्वयि आनन्दतनुज किङ्करं पतितं मां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कजा स्थितधूलि सदृशं विचिन्तया नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदरुद्धया गिरा पुलकैर्निचितं वपुः तव नाम गृहणे भविष्यति युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्रावृषायितं शून्यायितं जगत् सर्वं गोविन्द विरहे मने आश्लिष्य वा पादरतां विनष्टु माम् अदर्शनात् मर्महतां करोतु वाम यथा तथा वा विदधातु नं पटो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव नापरः मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव नापरः। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी सर्वशास्त्राब्धि पीयूष सर्ववेदैक सत्पथा सर्वसिद्धान्तरत्नाढ्य सर्वलोकैकदृक्प्रदा सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो कलिध्वान्तोदितादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाठाय प्रेमावर्षक्षरायते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोस्तुते मदेकबन्धो मत्सङ्गीं मद्गुरो मन्महागणां मन्निष्ठारकमद्भाग्य मदानन्दा नमोस्तुते असाधु साधुतादायिन् अतिनीचोचताकरां आनामुञ्चा कदाचिन्मां प्रेम्णा हृत्कण्ठयोस्फुराम् ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome to this session on Srimad Bhagavatam, where we are in the final portion, final section of the prayers by Vedas. We already discussed till verse number 35 of the 10th canto, chapter 87. So today we are going to discuss from verse number 36 through 41. I would have definitely loved it to have finished it as a continuous discussion so that we would have had that continuity. But I'm sure you're all, saintly devotees and will have a very strong remembrance. So probably we all don't need another revision. So I'll straight away jump on to text number 36 to 41. I'll try to finish it today because I presume so from a weekly twice program you all have made it to once. So from that perspective, I don't want to drag this forever for another week. So what we will do is that we will read the translations of 36 through 41 because verse number 41 is the last prayer that the Vedas are offering. So 42 is, the Supreme Lord is responding. So let's quickly read the translation and then we will churn this context. Text 36. Sata yidam utidam saditi chenna nutarkahatam yabicharati vyabicharati kvacha kvacha mrishan natato byayu Vyavahartaye vikalpa ishitonda paramparaya Ramayati bharatita uru vritibhir ukta jadhan. It may be proposed that this world is permanently real because it is generated from the permanent reality, but such an argument is subject to logical refutation. Sometimes, indeed, the apparent non-difference of a cause and its effects fails to prove true, and at other times, the product of something real is illusory. Furthermore, this world cannot be permanently real, for it partakes of the nature of not only the absolute reality, but also the illusion disguising that reality. Actually, the visible forms of this world are just an imaginary arrangement resorted to by a succession of ignorant persons in order to facilitate their material affairs. With their various meanings and implications, the learned words of your Vedas bewilder all persons whose minds have been dulled by hearing the incantations of sacrificial rituals. Text 37. Nayadidam agra ashana bhavishya-dato nidhanat anumitam antarat vibhati mrishaikarasen ata upamite dravina jati vikalpa patair vitata manavilasam ritamiti avyantya abhuddha. Since this universe did not exist prior to its creation and will no longer exist after its annihilation, we conclude that in the interim, It is nothing more than a manifestation imagined to be visible within you, whose spiritual enjoyment never changes. We liken this universe to the transformation of various material substances into diverse forms. Certainly, those who believe that this figment of the imagination is substantially real or less intelligent. Text 38. Sayad ajayat pajam anushayita gunamscha jushan Bhajati sarupatam tadanu mrityum apeta bhagaha tvamutas jahasita mahir ivatvacham atta bhago mahasi mahiyashesta gunishta parimeya bhaga. The illusory material nature attracts the minute living entity to embrace her, and as a result, he assumes forms composed of her qualities. Subsequently, he loses all his spiritual qualities and must undergo repeated birth, repeated deaths. You, however, avoid the material energy in the same way that a snake abandons its own old skin. Glorious in your possession of 8 mystic perfections, you enjoy unlimited opulences. Text 39. Yadinas samudharanti yatayo hridikama duraddigamo shatam hridigato smritakantamani asutripa yoginam ubayato ashutam bhagavan anapagatan katat anadhiruda padat bhavataha. Members of the renounced order who fail to uproot the last traces of material desire in their hearts remain impure, and thus you do not allow them to understand you. Although you are present within their hearts, for them you are like a jewel worn around the neck of a man who has totally forgotten it is there. O Lord, those who practice yoga only for sense gratification must suffer punishment both in this life and the next, from death, who will not release them, and from you, whose kingdom they cannot reach. Text number 40. Tvad avagamina veti bhavadutta subhashubhayo guna viguna vayam starhideha brutam chagira anuyugam anuvaham saguna gita paramparaya Shravana Bruto Yataswam Apavarga Gatir Manujai. When a person realizes you, he no longer cares about his good and bad fortune arising from past pious and sinful acts. Since it is you alone who control this good and bad fortune. Such a realized devotee also disregards what ordinary living beings say about him. Every day he fills his ears with your glories, which are recited in each age by the unbroken succession of Manu's descendants, and thus you become his ultimate salvation. Text number 41, and that's the last one of our series. Yupataya evate nayayur antamanantataya Tvamapi yad antaranga nichayana nusavaranaha Kaiva rajam sivanti vayasa sahayachrutayas Tvaihi palayanti atan nirashanena bhavan nidhanaha. Because you are unlimited, neither the lords of heaven nor even you yourself can reach the end of your glories. The countless universes, each developed in its shell, or compelled by the wheel of time to wander within you, like particles of dust blowing about in the sky. The Shrutis, following their method of eliminating everything separate from the Supreme, become successful by revealing you as their final conclusion. Hare Krishna. So we are at the final section of the prayers by the Vedas. It is very interesting that we are understanding from the Vedas about their own complexity. One is the prayer is in itself tells how complex they are. When I was preparing or reading this, I imagined attending a scientific lecture by a quantum mechanics professor who is going to present the science of consciousness and material matter. I did attend a session. Yeah, I'm talking about 1993-92. There was a professor. It was a lecture by His Grace Rasaraj Prabhu, who is one of the trustees of Bhaktivedanta Institute in Mumbai. He came to Regional Engineering College, Tiruchirappalli. So that's a new, that was a time where quantum mechanics, quantum physics was, some new concept. So we were all volunteers, like young monkeys running up and down upar niche for arranging for the festival. I mean, for the whole event in Regional Engineering College. Then after arranging, we sat in the class. And with all honesty, I can confess, this 1.5 hour lecture, I did not understand even a single word. Because everybody glorified, wow, somebody were even, having goosebumps on the lecture that he gave, but I didn't have a clue of what he was speaking. And that was because this is subject matter which is, for us to even understand, we need some premises, prerequisite understanding. And what to speak of, the person who is presenting the subject matter is in itself saying, this is not very easy. And this person who is himself presenting the subject matter saying, it is very confusing and complex. The Vedas are, as they are offering the prayers, they are saying how, when you don't know to see beyond, see within, see through the truth, the person who is addicted to Vedas can get carried away and can get lost. This actually is a glorification come confession. How it is glorification? It is glorification because the spiritual science is an open secret. It is like I'm keeping several thousands worth of cash in an open place, but nobody can see them or access them. Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam. Now the story is, Guhyam, confidential, means something that is not told to anyone. But here we have sold millions of Bhagavad Gitas and everybody is having access to the subject matter. How it is Guhyam? The way the knowledge, even after it's like an open book examination in a graduation program. When I was doing MS in BITS Pilani, they had an open book examination. It used to be more tough than a closed book examination because you should know where the answers are. You don't. One of the guys who came for the examination brought a wrong book. He thought it was a different exam. So he's searching for an answer in the wrong book. Sometimes we do that. We are searching for happiness in the wrong place. We are searching for solution in the wrong place. We are searching for answer in the wrong place. So Vedas are saying, please don't come and ask me. The reason they are saying is, why Smritis? What is Smriti? Smriti is that which is remembered. Shruti is that which is narrated or chanted. Shruti, Smriti, Purananam, Shruti, Smriti, Puranadi, Pancharatrikim Vidindinam, Aikantikir Harer Bhakti Utpada Yaiva Kalpate. Rupa Goswami Pad says that the entire Vedic literature has got several subject matters, several truths, several facts. But it is not just about the content. It is also about the person who is serving the content that matters the most. Because Saririka Bhashya, which is given by Shankaracharya, he is also referring to the same content. He is also referring to the same subject, same book, whilst all the other Vaishnava Acharyas are referring. So this Vedanta Sutra, the commentary on Vedanta Sutra, which is Srimad Bhagavatam, which is what Madhvacharya, what Vyasadeva, what Ramanujacharya, they are giving is completely in a different flavor vis-a-vis what is given by Shankara. So my first reflection here is that the science that we are dealing, or the prayers by the Vedas, they are revealing this Vedic knowledge, the subject matter that is dealing with God, universe, relationship. It is purely accessible only when you approach them with a specific glass, with a specific suit, with a specific preparation. A small deviation. There is to be a demon by name Mahiravan in Ramayana. If you have to go to Mahiravan's palace, there is a specific methodology by which you can go there. It is very wonderfully described that in the middle of an ocean, there is a very big lotus, and that lotus has got a stem, long stem, and somebody has to chant a specific mantra without breathing, or without in one breath. So basically, from the time he enters that main place till the time he reaches his whatever miles, 300, 200, 500, whatever number of miles, in one breath they have to chant to penetrate that, to go there. Mahiravan is a Mayavi. He's also a scientist. So just by a simple manipulation of certain scientific parameters, he had set up his own infrastructure. Unless and otherwise somebody know the art of it, they cannot access to it. Vibhishana is explaining this to Hanuman. The reason I'm giving this example is, just because we are seeing, just because it is accessible to us, just because it is in our house or family, will not make us eligible enough to understand the science of the Vedas. What are they saying here? They're saying, the Vedas are saying, for you to understand me, it depends upon how much you are lost, how much you are engrossed, how much you are involved in sense gratification, vis-a-vis how much you are a self-realized soul. So my first reflection hence is that Vedic knowledge, access to the Vedic knowledge, understanding of the Vedic knowledge, and further interpretation and application of Vedic knowledge are layered. Different layers are meant for different sets of people. And to go through each of this layer, we need to we need to kind of qualify ourselves to cross through all these layers. And finally, after you cross through all the layers, you will definitely come to an understanding. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. Finally, come to an understand that Vasudeva is everything. Up till that point in time, we may be just sentimentally or with lots of illusion trying to deal with the subject matter of spirituality. That is why we have to know the difference between religiosity versus spirituality. We spoke as a part of this series in one of the sessions. We spoke about individuality, formality, religiosity, and spirituality. Probably the second session we discussed. So, by studying this Vedas, the very first prayer of today, verse number 36, quite a long, complex translation. I had to read it 3 times before I decipher what they are trying to say. So, is that the Vedas are subtly presenting, and thanks to Vedavyas, about the illusory nature of this creation, illusory nature of this representation, illusory nature of his own self, and how, what is real, what is illusion. Because this illusory may be, even in the illusory sense, there is a reality. And in the reality sense, there is an illusion. Oh my God. So the point is this. I'll give a small example. The example is like this. A person is a police officer. This police officer is on a duty in disguise. This police officer is on a mission to search a criminal. But he is in a disguised dress. So he goes out to search for the criminal, sometimes posing himself as a normal praja, sometimes posing himself as a criminal himself, sometimes posing himself as a well-wisher of someone. But the real reality is, he is a police officer trying to catch hold of the criminal. He damn doesn't have any other agenda. Now, you analyze this person's character from several angles. Is he real? Yes, he is real. Is he illusion? Yes, he is illusion also. Is his action real? His action seemingly real. But is he really doing that action? No, this action is illusory. So, this entire storyline mein sachai kya hai? That he is a government servant, he is on a mission. That's all is Vedas and Maya. Both of them are on a mission. Depends on which side you are approaching that person, you will know the reality as well as the illusory aspect of it. Suppose if you are his colleague, you will know which statement of his is true, which of them are false. Suppose if you are an innocent person, you will think that probably this person is, a normal praja. Suppose you are the criminal, you may develop a doubt. Maybe this guy is, posing a scene. So it depends upon who the person who is approaching. That is why the Shastras are encouraging. The prayer itself is such that those who have right understanding of reality, by surrendering to the real source, to the real attitude, for them, they can pick the illusion easily out and keep aside. I repeat, a person who is interested in reality, by surrendering to the real source, will be able to differentiate and pick aside what is illusion and what is reality. In the very first prayer of today's discussion, it's an important prayer that Vedas are making because Mayavadis claim very tall, stating how this material world is not real. How this material world is illusory, imaginary. So this verse is actually a very good response by Vedavyas as well as Vaishnava Acharyas to such an ideology. Now, with this background, let us read this translation. It may be proposed that this world is permanently real because it is generated from the permanent reality. Permanent reality is the Supreme Lord because the Lord created this universe. Because it has come from the Lord, people may say this world is permanently real, which is a false statement. Why? Dukkhalayam asashvatam. Krishna is saying this world is real, but not permanent. Shankaracharya is saying this world is unreal, eternally dreaming. So both are wrong statement. Permanently real is also a wrong statement. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya is also a wrong statement. And both of them have got their own masala into this. So the masala here is, somebody may argue, this is Lord who created this. So long as the Lord is existing, this will also exist. That's one argument. Sometimes, indeed, the apparent non-difference of a cause and its effect fails to prove true, and other times, the product of something real is illusory. The product of something real is illusory. How is that possible that a person who is real can create something imaginary? That's a fact somebody is not able to assimilate. But the fact here is, this verse is clarified in the very next verse, that is 7, by Vedas stating, since this universe did not exist prior to its creation and will no longer exist after its annihilation, we conclude that the interium, it is nothing more than manifestation imagined to be visible within you. So whatever statement that they have clarified, mentioned in verse number 36, is established by 37 verse to state the philosophy of illusion versus reality. So I want to conclude my first reflection by stating this point, wherein that to get to know the real reality, we need to understand the real source with the right attitude. Otherwise, we will fall trapped to the illusion, thinking them as real. And not only we will be thinking them, we will be acting on them, and eventually we will be digging our own graveyard. You read this. With their various meanings and implications, the learned words of your Vedas bewilder all persons whose minds have been dulled by hearing the incantations of sacrificial rituals. So sometimes what happens is that, I'm not sure how many of you have visited Kaveri belt. If you go to Kaveri belt, especially during Pitru Paksha time, not only Kaveri, you go to any belt, Ganga, Kaveri, Haridwar, any belt, go to the banks. During Pitru Paksha time, there are so many Brahmanas who would be there ready to do Tarpanam. So, and there are so many so-called poor, ignorant, innocent people who happen to come to those Brahmanas, and whatever the Brahmana mantra say, they will say, thinking that they are doing some great activity. One time, me and one of the earlier devotees in ISKCON Srirangam, we were there. I'm talking about 1995. So one of the days we went to Srirangam ISKCON from ISKCON, there was a Kaveri river is very close by. We went there. We got a little bit intrigued by the way the so-called Smarta Brahmanas, they were trying to take Dakshina and advantage of the innocence of the people. So we were jokingly discussing that probably if you don't get any job or placed, you should have a good shika, come to the banks of Kaveri river and have some, kusha grass and say, "Ha, boliye, boliye, samsara dava, nalalita loka, pranaya karunya, gana ganatvam." You can state any mantra you want, and nobody will have a clue of what they are saying. You will just can state anything. The point I was trying to say is, sometimes because of scriptural rituals, hung up the scriptural rituals, our intelligence is so blind that we simply get carried away with the rituals and feel extremely satisfied to that. One of the greatest jinx that Srila Prabhupada broke was this. Niyama graha se hame bachaye. One of the Prabhupada disciples by name Janananda Maharaj, he made this statement. He said the word spiritual has got a very significant explanation. What is spiritual? He divided the word spiritual into two parts. S-P-I is one part and the remaining part. He said if you remove S-P-I from the word spiritual, what is left is only ritual. And he says, what is S-P-I? Srila Prabhupada's instructions. He said, if you remove Srila Prabhupada's instructions from one's practices, even though he may be apparently amongst devotees, he will only do Niyama Graha. He will only be a sentimental devotee. Srila Prabhupada never wanted us to be a sentimental devotee, at least at the early stage. Sentiments are needed at some point in time in a different capacity. But as a sadhaka, we are supposed to be called as a scientific followers, not honest fools. So Vedas are confessing, offering their prayers and telling about themselves to say how they are in a very complex, state, that unless and otherwise somebody has got the right frame of mind, they may get carried away, bewildered, and eventually accept them as reality, which is not the case. And they may be giving several arguments, but all those arguments are baseless, because the purpose of the creation that you have done, the purpose of annihilation, the purpose of everything is existing because of your freedom, free will, as well as the individual's freedom and free will. The Lord has created this universe to have, trap us into a specific function. Because Jivatma, they want to enjoy separate from the Lord. So he had created this particular, arrangement. There are 6 systems of Vedic philosophy. I think I mentioned it in one of the early sessions. There are Karma Mimamsa. There are Jaimini's Karma Mimamsa, Kapila Dev's Sankhya, and there are other systems of philosophies. They are all using Vedas as reference. They are all atheistic or monistic ideologies. Only when the Vedanta Sutra was compiled by Vedavyas, they could eliminate all those layers. And, as the prayer itself mentions, that verse number 38, a very nice, the illusory material nature attracts the minute living entity to embrace her. And as a result, he assumes forms composed of her qualities. Subsequently, he loses all spiritual qualities and must undergo repeated births. However, you avoiding the material energy in the same way that a snake abandoned its old skin. Glorious in your possession of 8 mystic perfections, you enjoy unlimited opulences. So, the second reflection that I want to come over here is about how that ye yatam mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. So for this, I want to, refer a very interesting series of thoughts. There are sets of 5 thoughts. Number 1, good fortune misused. Number 2, good fortune acknowledged and recognized. Number 3, good fortune delivered. Number 4, good fortune sought after. And number 5 is good fortune bestowed upon, distributed upon others. The reason is, here, the illusory material nature attracts the minute living entity to embrace her. And as a result, one person who assumes, the previous shloka is explained, who believe that this figment of this imagination is substantially real or less intelligent. Verse number 37 says, the last line of the shloka, certainly those who believe that this figment of the imagination is substantially real or less intelligent, and such a person, verse number 38 says, loses all his spiritual qualities and must undergo repeated births because he assumes the forms composed of her qualities. The point here is, in the process of Krishna consciousness, when we are not able to recognize the good fortune coming our way. I'll give example on all these 5. Good fortune misused. What is good fortune misused? Nalakuvar and Manigriva. The ideal case of good fortune misused. They were in a very wealthy, rich, aristocratic, devotee family. Because Kuvera is not an ordinary person, it's a very great devotee, wonderful devotee. So much so that he served the Supreme Lord. So when you are in such an arrangement, you have misused. So good fortune is misused. The second category is, there are some people who have acknowledged and recognized the good fortune. Who is that? Akrura. He, even though he was in Kamsa's side, he has understood and acknowledged that he has, no, I have been in the, Sangha of Kamsa, so I will also be Asuri. He didn't say that. He was waiting and trying to behave in such a manner that he could capitalize. As soon as the opportunity came, he immediately recognized, acknowledged, and worked on it. Third is somebody who had been the recipient, who had acknowledged, who had identified the good fortune and grabbed them. Example, hippies and Srila Prabhupada. Because, Durvasa Muni and Ambarish. So, more apt is hippies and Srila Prabhupada. Because these hippies, Narayani Mataji or some of the Prabhupada disciples, they said, in the initial days, they did not understand the accent of Prabhupada. They did not understand the content of Srila Prabhupada's lectures. They did not understand anything that is going on in their, ashram, but they loved Prabhupada. They all, it was told was, we loved Swamiji. All we knew was Swamiji. Just because we knew Swamiji, then we started to love Swamiji. Then we started to follow Swamiji. Then we started to appreciate Swamiji. Then we started to understand Swamiji. Then we started to become like a Swamiji. So it is all from the time it is explained that even an enemy can have appreciation about certain person. Like Kamsa. He knew the good qualities of Vasudeva. Just because, he was an Asura does not necessarily mean that he does not understand what the good qualities of the other person. The challenge of a demon is that they do not want to give up what they possess or what they claim belongs to them. So the point here is, when good fortune, the classification that I am trying to say is grabbed or identified, they somehow thought that this person who is going to give me the blessings, who is giving the blessings to me, it's called mercy in disguise. So they didn't realize up till the point in time what is coming their way. They just went along with the flow. They just danced in Tompkinson's Park. They didn't know what is coming their way. For them, it is just a song. So the classification here is good fortune, identified by me. I just thought, okay, this is a good guy. Maybe it's just a fluke, but it's a good fortune coming your way. The fourth is good fortune to be inherited and applied, which is like Vyavasayatmika Buddhihi Ekeha Gurunandana type, where the person who is supposed to understand where he stands, like Arjuna surrendering to Krishna. Arjuna thought about leaving the war field. Arjuna thought about becoming a mendicant, made up all his mind, but went to Krishna for reconfirmation, because Arjuna never wanted to make something stupid. Arjuna never wanted to do something abominable. Arjuna never wanted to do something that is detrimental. Even though he had a desire, so I would classify them as good fortune, where I understand the need and I seek for it and try to, I go and ask, seek for it. In the previous case, it came, I recognized. Here I am seeking for the truth. I am just going, Sishyasteham Sati Mam Tvam Prapanna. And the last classification, the fifth classification is where I have accepted, I am following, I am going out to distribute good fortune, which is our mission. These five classifications, why are we discussing here is, in this current context, verse number 37 and 38 combined, if you see, it is very nicely explained that it is by our choice we are in Maya. It is not by some external energy we are pushed in Maya. It is purely by our choice. Verse number 37 and 38 specifically clarify. 37 says, we liken this universe to the transformation of various material substances into diverse forms. And those who believe that this figment of this imagination is substantially real or less intelligent, why? It's converse. I mean, it's one dependent on the other. Because the illusory nature attracts them, they assume the form of her, or the reverses of the truth. Because they have lost spiritual qualities, because they have been in the association of illusory things, they start to consider the figment imagination to be real. Both ways, in this both sides, the scenario is, हम खो गए हैं, हम गवा दिए हैं, हमारा baseless situation आ गया है. So which means the second reflection that I want to conclude is that when good fortune in any one of this category, we are able to grab on it, it is about the blessings for us. Otherwise, It will be a person who is having honey bottle but licking from outside. Who is thinking that honey is tasteless? Who is thinking that those who are claiming honey is sweet is a stupid? Thinking that I am having honey, I am now a very healthy guy just by having the bottle of honey with me. So these are the ideologies one will have. But the real effect is open the honey bottle, lick the proportionate quantity that you are supposed to. Not too much, not too less. Then only you will have the proper experience. The difference between illusion and reality is explained that much clearly by our scriptures. So hence, the second reflection is on the point on good fortune misused, good fortune acknowledged and recognized, good fortune identified, good fortune inherited or sought after, and good fortune distributed. First case, example of Nalagwara and Manigriva, where it's good fortune misused, where opportunity where they are misused. Second was Akrura. In third case, we discussed the example of hippies and Srila Prabhupada, where they could identify, they could somewhere develop, by whatever will of providence. And the fourth case, it is Arjuna and Krishna. And fifth case is our missionary activities, where we got the good fortune, we are prepared to go out and distribute them to everyone so that they don't fall trap to what is explained over here by the Vedas. That flowery words, confusing words, complex words, people may get carried away with me without realizing what they are supposed to. Now comes the last three shlokas, very interesting one to wrap up this entire things. So verse number 39. So that's the third reflection going to come. So members of the renounced order who fail to uproot the last traces of material desire in their hearts remain impure and cannot get access to your self, and neither they will be entered to your spiritual abode. So what Vedas are saying, it's actually a proclaiming. It's a declaration. What is the declaration here? 4 points are explained in this translation. Number one, so long as your heart is unclean, so long as you have impurity in the heart, they are not able to understand, or the Supreme Lord will not allow them to understand himself. This is number one. Number two, it is like having jewel in your own backyard, having butter but crying for ghee. Because of the first problem, they will not be able to realize how much of the benefit that they are. The example is given here is having a jewel around the neck, but somebody has forgotten that he is worn. Sometimes we have seen people having spectacles, ऐसा यहाँ रखते हैं, don't think पूरे घर, अरे यार कहाँ रख दिया ये spectacles को, चश्मा को कहाँ रख दिया, कभी कभी पेन को कान में लगा देते हैं दुकानदार, ढूंढते रहते हैं पेन कहाँ गया. Sometimes people keep their mobile phone in their pocket but search everywhere and start screaming, shouting at people. So the point is that because of the traces of attachment in this material world, they are not able to understand Krishna. That's number one. Number two, they are not able to take advantage of presence of Krishna because they are in a state of illusion. Number three, that they are punished for their action. How they are punished? They are punished by repeated birth and death. And their fourth is they are punished by not letting them come to the spiritual abode. All these four is because of one agenda. What is that agenda? Not able to keep the heart clean. The challenge here is even the last traces should not be here. This is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming into the play. This is when Gaudiya Vaishnava is coming into the play. I will transport you to a interesting context. This is from Nectar of Instruction, verse number 5. I guess in one of the earlier discussions I have read them, but I'll bring them to this current context. In text number 5, in the purport, Nectar of Instruction purport, Srila Prabhupada is writing something. One whose faith is soft and pliable. This is from NOI, text number 5, third or fourth paragraph. One whose faith is soft and pliable is called a neophyte. But by gradually following the process, he will rise to the platform of a first-class devotee. Everyone begins his devotional life from the neophyte stage. But if one properly finishes chanting the prescribed number of rounds of Harinam, he is elevated step by step to the highest platform, Uttama Adhikari. The Krishna consciousness movement prescribes 16 rounds daily because people in the Western countries cannot concentrate for long periods while chanting on beats. Therefore, the minimum number of rounds is prescribed. However, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura used to say that unless one chants at least 64 rounds of japa, 100,000 names, he is considered as fallen, patita. According to his calculation, practically every one of us is fallen. Prabhupada is not even saying every one of you are fallen. Prabhupada is saying every one of us is fallen. Of course, he is not, but then he is trying to be humble and trying to include us. But because we are trying to serve the Supreme Lord with all seriousness and without duplicity, we can expect the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is famous as Patita Pavana, the deliverer of the fallen. So we are getting a very interesting paradigm. The prayers offered by Vedas, they have stated a very strict regime. You have to be 100% clean. Traces भी नहीं चलेगा. Punishment क्या है? Birth, death, old age. This is birth, death, old age. This is cycle. Ashradadanaha purusha dharmasyasya param tapam aprapyamam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. Janma mrityu jara vyadi cycle keep on running. Second punishment, we are not given access to the spiritual abode. Third punishment, we cannot even understand Krishna. Karan kya hai? Our heart has got traces of unwanted things. Now that guy is sitting and giving Srimad Bhagavatam class. Several chunks of unwanted things are in the heart. How am I allowed to give Bhagavatam class? That is where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, Karuna Shakti is coming into the play. Whilst this is true in all the sense, but there is also another fact which we have just read. What Prabhupada says? Because we are trying to serve the Supreme Lord with all seriousness and without duplicity. That's all Prabhupada is expecting us. No duplicity, all seriousness, we can expect mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is known as Patita Pavana. So my third reflection here is two parts. Part number 1 is what a principle is. Part number 2 is what the glory of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the mercy of our Vaishnava Acharyas are. I have always mentioned this in several forums. I think one of the earlier classes I have clarified. Every time when we analyze our personal life, our spiritual life, our practices, setting a benchmarking, we should go by what principles say. Because principles are for us to follow, not to be applied on others. Principles are for us to follow, assimilate, apply, and practice. And every time you have to earn that मेरे हृदय में जो थोड़ा बहुत जो खोट है वो भी साफ हो जाए. This should be my mentality. How does Krishna looks at? How does Acharyas look at? How does great personalities look at is mentioned only here. Prabhupada has mentioned that even if you are 50, 70%, 80%, 60% Krishna conscious, you will still get delivered. So that is their daya. So what are we arguing here is, don't trade on what they are going to be merciful upon you and how are they going to be merciful upon you. Their mercy is their prerogative. Rupa Goswami is explaining this in Nectar of Instruction. In the purport, Prabhupada writes none of the earlier verses, 3, 4 verse 10. If we say, oh, that Prabhu is anyway merciful, let me go to the temple without taking bath. Oh, that Mataji is very merciful that, even though I have not, offered the food, she will allow me to eat. So that is not the way we are supposed to trade on. Our trade should be on our Shraddha and our sincerity. But knowing that the other person is interested in getting us, they will find ways and means to purify us. It is like when you apply for a competitive examination or when you apply for an interview. Suppose you are applying for an interview for a UPSC exam or becoming an IAS officer or some sort of a very tough profile. The criteria, eligibility criteria and qualifications are listed. Everybody is shortlisted like that. The moment somehow or other you are inside the interview room, your selection is subject to what the interviewer's blessings upon you are. Either they can identify several lacunas and throw you out, or they can look at one very good quality and overlook all other things and accept you. How is that? Otherwise, a person who goes through very severe regime of schedule to become even a smallest police officer. But just because I am a Olympic medal winner, I'm getting the position of a Deputy General of Police. I am directly given a job in the government as DGP. This is a live news. One of the Olympic medal winner got the government job in Manipur or someplace that he or she became a police officer at the rank of DGP. तुमने डीजीपी के लिए क्या काम किया? पढ़ाई किया क्या? यूपीएससी एग्जाम लिखा, कुछ पास किया, कुछ नहीं किया, just because you won the Olympics medal. So this is what is called, the process in Krishna consciousness has got two ways. Rupa Goswami explains. One way is by Vaidhi sadhana, Raganuga sadhana, Bhava, Prema, step by step. Second is surf causeless mercy. But the request is don't trade on that causeless mercy. Don't wait for causeless mercy. Oh, I will also be called one day to become a DGP. You will not be called. You will not be called to become a DGP. This lady or the person has struggled hard or worked hard elsewhere, demonstrated to be airlifted, to be called as somebody, So in our Krishna consciousness, we need to go our processes. But yes, the great wonderful personalities of the Lord and their own followers, they are waiting to airlift us because they also want to bring in a smile in the Lord's face. The Lord is missing us more than we missing the Lord. So my third reflection is about these three punishments, apparent punishments that are spoken about in verse number 39 is something that we can circumvent if we somewhere or other sandwich ourselves, take very cocooned ourselves in the assembly of self-realized souls. Then what happens is that we naturally get easily conditioned. Jo rasta, it is yesterday we had a Gopala Krishna Maharaj Vyasa Puja celebration in our temple here. So Maharaj Vyasa Puja was just getting over. I had to leave. So we had some privilege of being quote unquote whatever senior devotees. We have been asked to go in the queue. We don't need to stand in the queue. So they said, Prabhuji, aap aage jaiye, prasad dijiye. So there is one, me and another Prabhu was going to take the prasadam. There were two devotees whom I, didn't call them. So suddenly they were with me. And after the plate was over, Prabhuji, you know what? कि आपके साथ आते प्रसाद पहला मिल गया प्रभु जी हमें इतना लंबा क्यू में खड़ा रहना नहीं पड़ा. So I mean, I'm not trying to give credit on somebody recognizing me as senior or not, but the secret is, if you somehow know to cocoon yourself, to sandwich yourself, to engage yourself in the assembly of devotees, they will carry you forward, even though apparently we may not be qualified. The qualification is, easily satisfied by one single condition. Jagaya and Madai were not qualified, but they became eligible just by that one statement of Nityananda Prabhu. Please bestow your blessings upon them. So sometimes, we don't understand that the opportunity that are available with us in the, in the practice of Krishna consciousness is so sublime, so wonderful, that they can eliminate this punishments by our choice. So the third reflection hence is about two parts: how the process is tough, but the mercy of Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada is so sublime that we can very easily surpass them if we try to understand and appreciate that. The remaining last two verses is a cream of all the set of prayers that we had said. So verse number 40, when a person realizes you, he no longer cares about his good and bad fortune arising from past pious and sinful acts, since it is you alone who controls this good and bad fortune. It is like whether Ashlishyava Padaratam Pinastumam Adarshanath Marmahatam Karotua Yata Tatava Vidata Kulampatu Matprananatastu Sayevana Paraha. Uddhava reached Vrindavan on Krishna's request. Uddhava is having Krishna's love letter or letter to the gopis, small letter. Uddhava sat amongst gopis, to cut the long story short. All the arguments, wonderful. You should read that chapter in Krishna book. We just finished a series just before Janmashtami on this, where as a part of Krishna Kathamrita, we discussed how Uddhava's conversation with gopis, what Radharani, how by accusing Krishna she is glorifying Krishna, how other gopis by blaming Krishna they were glorifying Krishna, and Uddhava was so spellbound, completely not able to speak, and saying that where am I? I thought all the while I knew everything. I thought everything in this world is complete for me because Krishna is my dear friend. But now I take back my stand. I would like to become a creeper in Vrindavan so that all these gopis, they can stamp on me and their lotus feet dust can fall upon my head. The point I'm trying to say is, once you are into the self-realized zone, once you are in the zone of complete Krishna consciousness, even in pain, even in distress, even in accusing mode, they receive the pleasure. Because Krishna in the letter to gopis has written that, my dear gopis, I vanished or went away from your vision to increase your love for me by your missing me. And by you missing me, thinking about me, You will always remember about me. So apparently, this may be called as pain in the normal context of loving relationship. But because Krishna consciousness is an absolute process, even in the pain, they receive pleasure. Even in their accusation, they receive pleasure. Even in their scolding, even in their complaints, even in their allegations, all they were doing is only glorifying Krishna. Pati sutanvayad bratur bhandavan ati vilanghyate. So in that, we had this Gopi Gita discussion also as a part of this group, study, where how gopis are even blabbering, shouting at Krishna, but eventually they were all prayers. So the point here is, every day he fills his ears with their glories, which are recited in each age by the unbroken succession of Manu's descendants. Evam parampara praptam. So in this point, as a fourth reflection, we have 2 points. Number one, 3 points actually. Number one, spirituality is beyond duality. Number two, that a person, who is operating on Krishna consciousness, whilst they are in this world, whilst they are part of this, this world operating, he is completely oblivious to how people perceive about him. And the most important thing is, this is because he is receiving the knowledge from the parampara, unbroken succession of the recitation of Vedic knowledge. So, and the last fifth reflection and the final one to conclude this series is because the Vedas are finally submitting as their offering. They said, because you are unlimited, neither the lords of heaven nor even you yourself can ever reach the end of your glories. Vedas are saying, you yourself don't know who you are. Where else we have heard similar this? Jambavana said this to Hanuman. You yourself doesn't know, what you can do. Of course, that was for a different reason. He had a curse. But in this case, Vedas are saying, you yourself doesn't know your glories. This actually, there is a reference in Padma Puran. Madhavananda Prabhu once mentioned this. Krishna and Arjuna were speaking. Krishna was telling Arjuna, do you know, Arjuna, the sun is rising, the seasons are changing, and the world is existing because of my devotees. And then he makes a further statement, even I am existing because of my devotees. So he is giving a weightage, an importance, where sometimes Krishna, to realize who he is. 2 examples. Pantastu koti satavatsara sampragamyo vayoratavi manaso muni pungavana sopyasti yat prapada chimni avichindya tatve govinda madipurusham tamaham bhajami. While explaining that particular shloka, koti satavatsara sampragamyo, tens and thousands of years, muni pungavana, munis and rishis are performing meditation for what? To get the darshana, the tip of the toe of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord starts to wonder, there may be something very sweet in my lotus feet. So what is he doing? He's lying down on a banyan leaf and suck his own thumb and tasting, maybe my lotus feet is tasty. Because he himself is wondering, aisa kya hai re mere pair mein, ye sab log lage bade piche. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why he is appearing himself as Chaitanya? Because he wants to taste what it means to be Krishna Prema that Radharani is enjoying. So sometimes the Lord even does not realize what is his glories, just because Krishna Prema is so bewildering, not bewildering, I'm sorry. Krishna Prema is so enchanting. Krishna Prema is So enlivening and surcharging, so much so, even the Lord gets lost. Somebody asked Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, can Krishna create something that he himself can't defeat? Srila Prabhupada said, yes, Krishna can do it. Then he took a small pause, said, and after some time, he will come and defeat that again. So he can create as a part of the Leela, binding himself. In Muchukunda's story, in Muchukunda Leela, he started running away from, the demon and went into the cave. So it is all apparently, some sort of an action. And eventually he himself, fixes the situation. So the point here is that even the Lord is super excited about his own glories. And the second interesting aspect is mentioned is that countless universes, each enveloped in its shell, are compelled by the wheel of time to wander within you, because Bhagavad Gita explains, Mayi sarvam idam proktam sutre manigana iva. So hence Shrutis are starting to follow, glorify you. So Smriti is confusing. Shruti, when they are heard from unbroken succession, starting from Manu Ikshvaku and the Parampara, then that Shruti will reveal you with the help of the narrator. The person becomes successful by revealing you and teach who is the final conclusion. So Vedas are concluding saying that the Supreme Lord is, my father used to always say, if anyone says God is nowhere, you please rephrase them. You understand God is now here. Just adjust the word here and there. You will know that. So the science of Krishna consciousness is that it is very scientific. I had prepared notes on going little more technical, but due to the time constraint, I'll stop here. Otherwise, Madhurya Kadambini, explains on the person who is situated in the stage where who are in the stage of bhava and prema, and they are giving several technical stages. What are the characteristics of a person who is in the stage of bhava, and how they function, what do they think, how do they behave, and what are the different subsections. So maybe sometimes we can discuss this Madhurya Kadambini to churn this part out. So I would like to end this session on this entire set of prayers by Vedas by saying that Vedas are very categorically said that they are intense, they can confuse, and they are, apparently give different interpretation for the person who may not have the right amount of attitude and dedication. But if you have not even a trace of attachment to the materialistic things, and if you are properly situated and hear from a Shruti Pramana, from a bona fide parampara, the same Veda, you can see through, penetrate in, and able to find out Krishna within. And that's what our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas have done. All glories to them, so that we don't need to read Rig Veda. Assume that unless you finish Rig Veda, you will not be given first initiation. I guess all of us will have to, wait for several lifetimes to get our initiation sorted out. Just because of Srila Prabhupada and all his followers, they're able to access the most complex science of Vedic knowledge in the most simplest manner. So with this, I end this session and as well as end this series. Thank you so much. Granthraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Dev. Any questions or comments? I'll be happy.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I'll ask a question, Prabhu.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Prabhuji, actually, we read that the Vedas are supposed to be knowing or understanding Krishna. So, but still there is so much in Vedas that which people, try to search here and there. And where somewhere we heard that the difference between we and animal is that, to understand that what is the purpose of human life is to understand this Veda. So in the class we are told about this material world, which is, means we know that Bhagavad Gita, there are 5 subjects, and this is eternal material world, but it's like a cloud. So, Prabhuji, my question is actually that when we go to Golok Dham, I think this might be asked many times. So, why we come back to this material world? In a very, very, very means clearly means if we understand people have gone to Golok Dham, or so how and what reason they come back, or are they stuck in the three realizations, Brahma Jyoti or Paramatma level, and from there they come down? And why in Golok Dham they are envious of Krishna? This part uh, I want to understand with references.
I will encourage you to read 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter number 11. Jada preaches to Rahuguna. So the question that you had asked is a very complex as well as confusing as well as intriguing question. I'm not sure if I will be able to fully answer them. But Rahuguna was told by Jadabharata. Jadabharata is defining 3 different personalities. Nitya Siddha or Nitya Muktas, Nitya Baddhas, and third is Jivan Mukta. Prabhupada gives a fantastic purport. Maybe, if you go through verse number 6, 7, 8 in that connection. In fact, from verse number 1, maybe all the way till 14, 15 verses, Jadabharata is talking about mind related, confusions and agitations. So, in that, Prabhupada explains who is a Nitya Baddha, who is a Nitya Siddha or Nitya Mukta, and who is a Jivan Mukta. My understanding is, to make the whole conversation simple, because it's a very debatable one, we have 2 versions. One version is a leaf has never fallen from a spiritual abode, is one version. Another version is, once fallen, but it will never fall again. That's another version. So I would not debate which version is correct, because both came from some bona fide Vaishnava Acharya source, and they can have their own rasa, probably from 2 different perspectives. So that's why Prabhupada also categorically avoided explaining them in greater detail. So from that standpoint, I would say what Prabhupada was encouraging is, he's saying at least understand the context of who is a Jivan Mukta. Okay. He says Jivan Mukta is such a person who, whilst being in this world, have an awareness of what is correct, what is not correct, what is to be done, what is not to be done, and he takes corrective actions so that at an appropriate opportune moment, he will go back to the spiritual abode. So this is number 1. Number 2, based on whatever I have read from Prabhupada's purports, Srila Prabhupada said, and my understanding is, we are not supposed to get envious. We are not supposed to be, getting any bad thoughts when we are in a spiritual abode. How we got, I will not be able to answer. But one thing is for sure, that Prabhupada said, you will go back to spiritual abode or not come back. And number 2, the experiences that we had as a fallen soul now, will help us not to come back again. And more so, Prabhupada says that this misuse of freedom and free will is something that we should be careful about. So hence my interpretation is, if you, hypothetically speaking, misuse your freedom and free will again, you will be kicked out of the abode by Yogamaya. Will we ever misuse or not? Will we have the propensity or not? Do you think we are going to do that or not? I will not be able to answer. But simple funda is, the moment we are going to think about freedom and free will and misuse of them, before even you finish your thought, you are not going to be there. The moment you are starting to think कि अरे कृष्णा को अकेले एंजॉय करना, ऐसा सोचने से पहले आपको वहां से यहाँ भेजा जाएगा. I'll give a simple example. There was a devotee who had a syndrome called idiosyncrasy syndrome. Idiosyncrasy syndrome is a nervous disorder. So Rupa Goswami was sitting in a samadhi. Was in samadhi. His physical body was in the earthly planets, but his soul got transported to the spiritual abode. And what Rupa Goswami was doing as a Rupa Manjari, he was assisting the gopis in Radha Krishna's pastimes. And when Radha Krishna's pastimes, they were all laughing and enjoying and having fun moment. And Rupa Goswami is, everybody is they are laughing. And when he closed his eyes, and this scene is going on, this devotee, sincere devotee, who is having this nervous weakness with idiosyncrasy, was passing in front of Rupa Goswami, and that devotee misunderstood that Rupa Goswami is laughing at me. That's all that happened. Rupa Goswami did not laugh at him, but that devotee misunderstood. Rupa Goswami was thrown out of the scene. His samadhi got broken. That's the kind of cleanliness expected of in the spiritual abode. So, पूछ को एकदम रोल करके permanently फेविबॉन्ड सबसे चिपका के रखने का पूछ और सिंह को, या काटने का, दोबारा ग्रो नहीं हो जाए, वरना वापस पुनर्मुषिको भवा. A rat went to a priest. अरे मुझे cat से परेशान, मुझे cat बना दो. And says, okay, tathastu. Then cat said that I am, constantly threatened by a dog or a tiger. So मुझे dog or tiger बना दो. Tathastu. Now I am a tiger. I want to eat you and test. पुनर्मुषिको भवा, become a rat again. So ऐसे ही हमारा हालत होता है. This is my understanding, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Actually, what happens sometimes, people ask me some questions, and I'm unable to answer. So I raise this question in this platform from senior devotees, so that I can at least give them a reasonable answer. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments or thoughts?
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for churning these wonderful. This is one of the most difficult set of
My God.
prayers. prayers. And every time, I think Satesha Prabhu used to ask, Haridas, can you take? I said, no, I am not qualified enough to take this. This is, but you put it in a very simple format. And I do not have any questions because I have not read through that much. But thank you for very simply explaining them. Anybody else have any questions? Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, today I told it is our choice by Maya. We are in this material world. That it is, I understand. I wrote this statement. It is our choice by Maya. We are in this material world. In the 38 verse, he explained.
So the point is that the prayer says, Maya hame pakad liya. There are many times we say, Prabhuji, I am attacked by Maya. Is that a true statement? or I am going to Maya is a true statement. One spiritual master, he was explaining about, I'll tell you two stories. One by Jananivas Prabhu that I heard. So what happened was that the spiritual master was warning the disciple that please be careful of Maya. The disciple said, Gurudev, I am living as a brahmachari in the ashram. Maya kya kar legi? I know, Baba, be careful about Maya, because in Krishna consciousness, you may get carried away. No, I'm a strong brahmachari. I'm okay. Everything is okay. So no problem. Maya will not. So one day, it was very heavy rain in the evening. So this brahmachari was alone in the ashram. I think I've shared that story before. So he was alone in the ashram.
Vyasadeva and Jaimini Rishi.
I'm sorry?
It is Vyasadeva and Jaimini Rishi.
Okay,
disciple.
Vasudeva and Jaimini, there you go. So if you know the story, then the message is very clear. You know the story, Achyuta Prabhu? Okay, you know it. So great. So the point is that Maya is very tricky. He carried his own Guru Maharaj all the way to the climb the mountain, and finally said that, Baba, baki seva to nahi hota, but carrying a woman to marry, you're okay to. What Jananivas Prabhu was explaining at that point was, he said, you don't even realize that you are in a trap, and you'll be enjoying that trap till the point of time you realize that. So this one example. There's another example that was given always is, the Guru was giving a Bhagavatam class. So the next day morning was going to come for the class. While coming for the class, he's embracing a pillar. Ekdam pakad liya, jor se. All the disciples are sitting, and the Guru is, just embraced the pillar. The disciple said, Gurudev, please come. Vyasasana is there. We are waiting for your class. He said, no, this pillar is not letting me go. ये खंबा मुझे छोड़ नहीं रहा है. खंबा छोड़ नहीं रहा है. So they said, Gurudev, please come. Maybe, so whatever has happened. So then they went to, release him from his embrace. Then he held it by his legs. Then they held it by hand, legs, hand. They were doing that. Constantly saying, this pillar is not leaving me. And finally said, the disciple said, no, Gurudev, it is you who are holding on to the pillar, not the pillar holding on to you. So our interpretation of the statement is two. Maya is tricky, is true statement. But it is by our choice we embrace her. And the reason we embrace her by our choice is, somewhere we think the pleasure that she is going to give, Krishna may not be able to give me. I gave this example in one of the earlier sessions. A child is asking for a chocolate, mother is denying, and the child is crying. Mother is taking the child to the shopping. All the way the child is crying for a chocolate. And one notorious pedophile guy wants to kidnap the child. All he is trying to do is alluring the child, showing ice cream, balloon, cartoon, Barbie, this, that, exploring where is that weak point of the child by which the child will come to me. When he showed the chocolate, what is the child choosing? My mother is not providing me what I want now. So this guy is providing me what I want now. He is my well-wisher. So the child is leaving the mother's hand and going towards this guy. So it is explained, Kali Purusha, Maya's duty is to show different allurements. Somebody is fallen trapped to knowledge. Somebody is fallen trapped to position. Somebody is fallen trapped to beauty. Somebody is fallen trapped to fame. Somebody is fallen trapped to food. Somebody is fallen trapped to several things. They are just exploring kisse aap giroge. And whichever one you are fallen trapped, you are then. The reason you are fallen trapped, the reason the child left to that boy is, the child thought mommy cannot give ice cream or chocolate. But it is not true. It is not the affordability of the mother. It is mother thought what is relevant, necessary, appropriate for you. That's what Krishna does. That is why Prabhupada writes in one of the purport in Bhagavad Gita that, when somebody surrenders to a demigod, they should understand it is Krishna who provides all the needs. When somebody surrenders to Krishna, Krishna only provides those things which are not detrimental for us to progress in Krishna consciousness. Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana paryupasate tesha mityabhyuktana yoga kshemam vakam. Is it okay, Prabhuji?
Okay.
Thank you. Correct.
Prabhu, in that same first day you told Prabhu that I not understand. Prabhu. On the 30th, in the first class in that you mentioned in that, I wrote in the simple way that in the 30th you took first Veda class. Narada Muni asked Narayan Rishi to understand Vedanta Sutra to catch hold of Guru Parampara. In that you clearly mentioned Bhagavatam, CC, ND, BRS, means Vector. So in that you explained what is you are supposed to do in explain BG, what you are doing in SB, CC and BRS. I not able to wrote and I wanted to follow. Means in the past and wrote.
See, there is something called as code of conduct. If you go
Yes.
to every organization, there is something called as code of conduct. For us, Pancharatra is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Pancharatra teaches about, like for example, if you have to go to work and if you are working in mines, then you are supposed to wear a specific suit, a specific dress, a specific attire, and specific way of conducting, specific language to speak, specific food to eat, specific lifestyle to lead. Because you are in oil mines, you are in coal mines, you are in gold mines, and different places. Similarly, when you are doing devotional service, one is about knowledge, second is about realization, third is about relishment of the realization once you are getting that. But fourth, to achieve all these things, there should be some code of conduct, a lifestyle, certain technical information that we need to know. That is what is given in generally Pancharatra. Pancharatra is meant for, the code of conduct. And Srila Prabhupada has given them in our context, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which talks about defining bhakti, classification of bhakti, what am I supposed to do, what are the seva aparad, what are aparas, what are supposed to be done, what are not supposed to be done. So that those are the points that I was mentioning. Is it okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. You have churned it so well for us. And we have disturbed you also many times.
Oh my God, it's my pleasure. How it can be a disturbance? It is purely that some things have come my way, and I was really helpless. I was feeling very guilty about it also. I in fact told them if maybe somebody else can take the session and not make you all wait. But then I told at the very last moment that alternative things could also not be arranged. So please excuse me for that.
It was very nice class, Prabhuji. Very nicely you churned it. Thank you so much. Okay, so this was This class was started by Shamsundar Jagannath Prabhu. So he's not here with us, but still we would like to thank him from bottom of our heart for conducting this class and making it all go through very nicely. Well, many people have helped us, and you have taken major part in that, Prabhuji. So we would like to offer our prayers to you, and we will pray to Guru and Gauranga and also to Krishna to bless you the full knowledge so that you can keep sharing this knowledge with us. So one time of Hare Krishna mantra, we will all pray to Prabhu for his spiritual advancement in Krishna consciousness. Please everybody unmute yourself and pray. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you so much. And our special thanks to all the participants who have been participating with us regularly, and to all the speakers, and our special thanks to also who has sponsored this class, I mean the Zoom class. that is Purushottam Prabhu from Qatar. He's not here with us. We'll also pray for him. And Ravipati Prabhu for recording and uploading the classes regularly in the YouTube. And Raju Prabhu for his support, backup support. So we'll all pray for these people. One time of Hare Krishna, Maha Mantra for their advancement in Krishna consciousness. Please unmute
Hare-
yourself and pray. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare Ram,
Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama, Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Haridas Varya Prabhu, you want to ask anything?
No, I just wanted to say that I thank all the speakers who had been kind enough to come for this invitation. With this class, we finished the prayers in Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's been a wonderful journey. At least it was personally, as Ramgiri Prabhu most of the times he says that every time for the last 20 years that I've been hearing him, he says it's personally purifying for the speaker, because many of these prayers we do not go back and read, but then during the classes we go back and read. So thank you everyone for participating. We will keep you posted on what is the next series that's gonna come in. We wanted to also take a survey from the participants that what is